Motion in your step.
Motivation in your heart.
Hello, and welcome to today's Motion and Motivation podcast.
We've put together a study guide for everyone. If you need it, you can grab it from the video description. Okay, so get ready, because today we are diving headfirst into the Trump White House, right? And we're using Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury as our guide.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember this book, when it came out, it was like, boom, everyone was talking about it.
It was a total bomb.
Huge controversy. Wolff, the author, he's this journalist known for like getting right in the thick of things. And he claimed he had this crazy level of access to Trump's world.
Yeah, like from the campaign
Yeah.
all the way to the Oval Office, he was like right there.
Exactly. So what we're doing today in this deep dive is going beyond the headlines, right? We're trying to understand the why.
Right.
Why all the chaos, what was going on behind the scenes with all these big personalities. And oh boy, Fire and Fury does not disappoint.
Not even a little bit. Like, Wolff doesn't hold back. He's right there, almost like a fly on the wall, catching all the drama.
Oh yeah, and there is a lot of drama. We're talking rivalries, power struggles, those you won't believe this kind of moments. Like, remember when Trump was fixated on the size of his inauguration crowd?
Oh, yeah. Wolff gets into all of that. But one of the biggest things that jumps out from the book is this whole battle between Steve Bannon, Trump's chief strategist at the time, and, well, pretty much everyone else.
Bannon, right. He was a piece of work. He saw himself as the brains behind Trumpism, pushing this economic nationalism thing. Basically America first, even if it meant shaking things up globally.
So picture this. You've got Bannon, this kind of like self-styled revolutionary figure.
Right.
And he's clashing with more moderate voices like Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. They were all about like a softer touch, more image conscious.
Yeah, Gervonta, they wanted to maintain a certain image.
Exactly. It's like this political tug of war, and Trump's stuck in the middle.
And it's not just about ideas, right? I mean, Wolff suggests that Bannon really looked down on Jared and Ivanka.
Really?
Yeah, he thought they were all about their own status, not really about Trump's agenda.
Wow. So it gets personal.
Yeah, big time. And what's fascinating is that these weren't just like personality clashes. This stuff had real consequences. Remember the whole thing with James Comey, the FBI director, getting fired?
Oh, yeah.
That was huge.
Major turning point.
Big time. And according to Wolff, Bannon was completely against it. He was like, this is gonna blow up in your face. He even warned Trump about like potential investigations into his campaign and Russia.
Yeah, he saw the writing on the wall.
But Trump, he went ahead with it anyway. He thought it would make him look strong, decisive.
Which, is kind of a pattern with him, right?
Totally. And well, we all know what happened next. The whole Russia investigation really took off after that.
It definitely casts a long shadow.
It did. And Wolff uses this whole Comey situation as like a prime example of how Trump made decisions. Very impulsive, not a lot of listening to advisors, even if they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, he definitely surrounded himself with yes men.
For sure. And it wasn't just Bannon who had it rough. Reince Priebus, Trump's first chief of staff.
Yeah.
Man, talk about being thrown into the deep end.
He had a tough job trying to manage like this whole unconventional president, this chaotic White House. It's like he was set up to fail.
Yeah, Wolff makes him seem almost like a tragic figure, just completely in over his head.
Right, trying to create order out of like total chaos, trying to manage Bannon, Kushner, all these other big personalities is a mess.
It's almost like he was trying to herd cats.
Exactly.
And then there's Mike Pence. He's this really interesting character in all of this. Always there, loyal, but also kind of in the background.
Yeah, he's like this enigma, right? Always there, but never quite know what he's thinking. Wolff even quotes Bannon comparing Pence to the invisible husband on that old show, Ozzie and Harriet.
Right, like he's just always there, but never really in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But, don't let that quietness fool you. Wolff suggests that Pence was very savvy. He had these deep connections in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he was definitely playing the long game.
Absolutely. And it's all these different personalities, right? Their ambitions, their rivalries. It's what makes Fire and Fury such a page-turner. Like, you cannot make this stuff up.
It's stranger than fiction. It's like you're reading it and you're like, no way, this really happened.
Exactly.
And yet there it is.
That's wild.
It really is. It's like one of those things you can't tear your eyes away from, even though you know it's probably going to be bad.
Oh, tell me about it. And Wolff, he's so good at like capturing those weird, almost surreal moments from the early days. Like, do you remember that part about Trump waiting for Rupert Murdoch to visit him after the election?
Oh, yeah, that was something else.
It's like Trump's practically begging for Murdoch's approval, hanging on his every word. It's almost like uncomfortable to read.
Totally. He craves that validation,
Yeah.
especially for media guys.
It's true. Even though he's out there calling them the enemy of the people, you can tell he still wants their praise.
Yeah, it's almost like he needs their approval even as he's trying to undermine them.
Absolutely. And that kind of gets at something else that Wolff really highlights. Trump didn't seem all that interested in the actual details of governing, like policy, not really his thing.
No, not at all. Wolff makes it pretty clear that Trump found all that stuff boring. Briefings,
Yeah.
details. Who needs them? He went with his gut. What he saw on cable news, that was his real information source.
It's kind of scary when you think about it. I mean, this is the presidency we're talking about.
Right, these are huge decisions.
Huge. Wolff even talks about how Trump's aides would, like, write his name on memos in giant letters, just hoping he'd pay attention.
Anything to get him to focus for more than, like, 5 seconds.
Exactly. And it's almost funny in a way, but then you realize this is serious stuff.
It is, and it just highlights how different Trump's style was. He was all personality, all instinct, and governing. That's a lot more about process and details and working within a system.
And boy, did that cause problems. Wolff talks about how staffers were constantly scrambling, trying to figure out what Trump actually wanted, trying to make his tweets and offhand comments into actual policy.
It was like they were trying to nail jelly to a wall.
Totally.
A perfect example is that whole travel ban thing, the one targeting those Muslim-majority countries.
Oh, yeah, that was a mess.
Total mess. And Wolff suggests Bannon was the one pushing that. Knew it would appeal to Trump's desire to look tough, decisive.
Make a big splash early on.
Exactly. But it was, like, rolled out overnight. No warning, no real planning. Nobody even bothered to check with the lawyers or the government agencies that would actually have to implement it.
So predictable, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what happened? Chaos. Airports were a nightmare, lawsuits everywhere, people freaking out. Even some of Trump's own party were like, what are you doing?
Not a good look.
Not at all. And it showed what happens when you just shoot from the hip, especially when you're the president of the United States.
Right. The stakes are a little bit higher in that job.
It's just a tad. Yeah. And it wasn't just the outside world that was a problem. According to Wolff, that White House was a pressure cooker of paranoia and backstabbing.
Oh, yeah. Everyone was leaking to the press.
Like crazy. People were terrified to say anything, for fear of being fired or, like, ending up on the wrong side of a tweet.
It's like, how did anything get done?
Right. But in the middle of all this are Jared and Ivanka. They came in with this, like, aura. Sophisticated, connected. They thought they could be the voice of reason in all the madness.
You're Ivanka calming the storm.
Exactly. But even they couldn't escape the drama. Wolff suggests they ended up pretty isolated. A lot of criticism, both inside the White House and from the public. And remember, neither of them had any actual experience in government.
Talk about a learning curve.
For real.
Oh.
And then you add in the Russia investigation heating up. That put even more pressure on them.
Oh, yeah, they were right in the thick of that.
They lawyered up big time. Wolff even mentions they hired Charles Harder, the guy who took down Gawker. That should tell you something about the siege mentality going on.
Wow. They were really in the hot seat. It makes you wonder, what were they even hoping to accomplish? What did they think they were getting into?
Right. And what's their legacy going to be? It's all very Shakespearean, in a way.
Talk about a wild ride. And one thing that really comes through in Fire and Fury is just how exhausting and stressful it was for the people who actually worked in that White House.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just the big players like Bannon or Kushner. Wolff talks about how the whole staff was just like on edge all the time.
Yeah.
Exhausted, confused, scared.
Yeah, I bet. It sounds like a total pressure cooker.
It was. People were afraid to speak their minds, afraid to disagree with Trump. They didn't want to get fired or end up as the target of one of his tweets.
Oof, I can only imagine. But with all that going on, all the drama, the infighting, how did anything get done?
Well, that's the thing. Wolff argues that all that chaos, all that churn, it made the Trump White House incredibly ineffective.
So it wasn't just bad for the people working there, it was bad for governing.
Exactly. And it gets to this really important point that Wolff makes throughout the book, the tension between personality-driven politics and the actual day-to-day work of running a government.
Right, because we often think of the presidency as this all-powerful office, but it sounds like even a president can get bogged down by the system.
Absolutely. And in Trump's case, Wolff argues that his lack of experience, his need for instant gratification, his tendency to surround himself with yes men, it all made that problem even worse.
So where does that leave us? I mean, after reading Fire and Fury, Is it fair to say that the Trump White House was uniquely dysfunctional, or is this just like a cautionary tale about what happens when you put personality over policy?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think Wolf would say that Trump's personality, his need for attention, his impulsiveness, it all created a perfect storm of chaos. But it also makes you think about the presidency in general, the challenges of governing in today's world, the importance of strong institutions, and frankly, just knowing what you're doing.
It's a lot to process. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. The power struggles, the personalities, those crazy moments that make you wonder if this really happened. What stands out to you as the key takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's the importance of being engaged, of paying attention. Fire and Fury is a reminder that our democracy is fragile. We can't
Okay.
take it for granted. We have to hold our leaders accountable, ask tough questions, and demand better.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good note to end on. Fire and Fury might be a book about the past, but it has a lot to say about the present and the future. It's a reminder that power can be intoxicating, that ambition can be dangerous, and that the choices we make as citizens really do matter.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we'll be back soon with another deep dive into a different topic. Until then, thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our updates. Also, if you think this video could help others, please share it with them. Thanks for watching and for your support.